Now, whether you realize it or not, so far during the course we've been working with built-in class objects. So for example, if I create a variable called my_list and set this equal to a set of empty square brackets, when we check to see what the type of the variable my_list is, we can see we return list. We also know that we can do things with lists. So if I were to look at the documentation of the variable my_list, which we know is a list object, you can see that the docstring states that we're working with a built-in mutable sequence, i.e. we can change things within this list. If no argument is given, the constructor creates an empty list. Now we also know that if I were to press tab, we get a list of methods that work with this object, i.e. they are methods that allow us to change the list object. Now in object-oriented programming speech, these can be considered as functions that are defined in a list class. But now rather than utilizing built-in functionality, we are now going to look at creating our own data structures. And the way we do this is by creating classes of our own. So in this example, we are going to create a data structure that helps us store the information about dogs for our dog daycare center. So we'll first of all create a class called dog. Now notice here that the class named dog begins with an uppercase letter. Now a common convention for naming classes is to follow what is known as Pascal case, and it's a naming convention in which the first letter of each word is capitalized. So for example, if I were to create a class called the dog, it would look something like the with a capital T and then dog with a capital D. And you can see that the first letter of each word is capitalized. After we've named the class, we can put a colon in a very similar way to functions. Now to start with, I'm not going to create any logic of any kind. I'm simply going to put a docstring that states that this is a user-defined object to represent and manage dog data. And then after this docstring, I'm going to put the keyword pass. So you can see here that the body of this dog class consists of two items. We have a docstring to help users understand what this class is used for, and we have the pass keyword. And we use the pass keyword as a placeholder indicating where code will eventually go, but we'll get onto this shortly. We can then run this code cell. Now let's create our first dog. So I can create a variable called my_dog, just like we did when we created a variable called my_list. And this is basically us creating an instance of that specific object. I can then put equals and then call upon the dog class. We can then put dog with a capital D and then a set of parentheses. Now if I take a look at the type of object stored in the variable my_dog, you can see that we get back an object of the dog type. And we'll explain what dunder main dunder means when we discuss packages and modules. Now if I put my_dog and then access the documentation of this class by pressing Shift and then Tab, you can see that my_dog is an object stored at this location in memory, and the docstring tells us that we're working with a user-defined object to represent and manage dog data. And this is obviously coming from our class definition above. Now if I press Tab, you can see that we don't get a list of methods that we can work with like we saw with lists, but that's because we haven't defined them yet. We haven't defined any attributes and we haven't defined any methods to call. But in the next video, we're going to start enriching our dog class so that we can start accessing attributes and methods that we define in our user-defined object called dog.